Shalom. We are preparing for Parashah Tazariah, which is this week's Torah portion. And it's a very short Torah portion. It's got two main topics. First one is the conception. And when the woman gives birth, that reveals her state of uncleanness, and that is for 7 days, 33 days, and then 14 days and 66 days. And that has to do with her unclean state. And that then flows into the next topic, which is leprosy. Now, leprosy, of course, is an unclean state, and that has to do with being born, being conceived, being born into this world. Now, if you think about the birth process, just in a natural sense, from your point of view, to make it easier, if you can think about, you are born into a culture, into a time frame, into a religion as a male or a female. You're born into a rich or a poor family, and you will be facing challenges as a result of where you are born. Now, some people may think, oh, that's unfair, because people in Ethiopia or India or wherever, they are born into extreme poverty and famine. And then you think about other people that are born into a culture with a religion that is not based on Yahweh's truth and Yahweh's word. Oh, that's also unfair, because that baby didn't have a choice. They just grow up with it and accept it as the truth, and they do the right thing, so to speak. Now, in the same way, think about being born into this world. Now, this world has multiple layers of uncleanness and multiple layers of challenges within a fallen state. And that's where what we just mentioned come into play. Now, Yahweh's grace is extended to those people on their various levels that they're at, where they found themselves being born into that. For example, if you're born deaf or blind and all that, you've got a certain set of challenges that give you sort of a step back into, competing within this world. But you also have another viewpoint of the world based on the things that you don't have, that give you another sense of what is important and what's not. Now, from Yahweh's perspective, all these things that are physical all weigh the same. And it's the spiritual things that are most important. And if you compare the spiritual things to all these physical things and shortcomings, they doesn't even come into account. So from Yahweh's perspective, He's not here to make us comfortable. He's here to grow us into a spiritual, perfect person. Now, being born into this world, the world of fallen state, can be compared to a wilderness. And as you know, as we discussed before, a wilderness is a place that's not designed for the flesh. It's designed for the spirit. In the same way, this world is a wilderness. This fallen state that we're currently in, this fallen world, fallen nature, this cursed earth, is a wilderness. And the challenges within is not designed to make the flesh comfortable. It's designed to grow the spirit man. And people tend to forget that the end goal, the outcome of it all, relates to what Yahweh's grace is all about, not the starting point, but the finishing point. And everyone's got a different set of challenges, but then He extends His grace to each one of us in a different measure to compensate for those challenges in order to elevate us and bring us to the same level at the end of the day. We'll all receive the same wage, regardless whether you have a quick start, early entry into being born into a Christian family that are middle class, no lack, no whatever, and you have a cruise living through this life and just a good person, for example, versus someone who was born into a corrupt family of crime and abuse and all that, and then through those challenges accepted Mashiach. Now, if you think about the depth of character of the first person who had a cruise, easygoing, versus the one who had this hard life, the depth of character of the second example is far surpassing the first one, and they will have much more wisdom and life experience in order to benefit other people who are in the same state, or even worse sometimes. So we need to relate to people in a very real way. And if you haven't gone through any challenges, how can you help someone who's now going through a very difficult time, just standing there and say, oh, be dressed, be clothed, don't be hungry anymore? And that's what the New Testament alludes to. You need to give them what they need in a real way. Otherwise, it's just empty words. And empty words might be the truth, but it doesn't do anything. So this leprous state, you need to relate to it from where you are at and identify with it in a real way regarding your spiritual status or spiritual state that you're in. And we all had some dynamics in our lives that gave us a setback, or we are born with that in a sense, in the examples I just mentioned. But that is not the important thing. Where we are walking towards, the light we are aiming at, the truth that we are embracing, and the status or the stature of holiness and being used by Yahweh is our goal. We don't look back and feel sorry for ourselves. We look forward and pursuing this goal, this end goal that Yahweh has for us, which is the completion of your creation process, which is to grow out of this leprous state, to receive healing from Him, so you can become a healthy, perfect man or woman of Yahweh. And that's where we need to focus on. And we need to embrace other people who are still on the journey, who are still, stuck into the bondage of this life, this world, fleshiness, whatever. And we need to accommodate them in a sense that you meet them on their level, not to say what they do is right, but to meet them on their level so that they can relate to you and want to listen to you, so that you can impart truth to them. So don't be high and mighty and look down on people who are still suffering. I'm talking about people who are suffering with sin, suffering with this leprous state that they're currently in. And you need to have compassion, just like Yeshua had compassion with people, and trying to impart wisdom so that they can start to think for themselves and start to want to do the right thing. And that makes your interaction with them real, not coming from a high and mighty perspective, judging them, looking down on them, but having compassion for their state that they're in, and then extend a helping hand of healing. And we're going to look at a few things, this Torah portion regarding leprosy and this leprous state that we're in, and how that relates to healing. And we're also going to jump back into the previous Torah portion, which was Shimini, which is all about the restoring of the skin. And we know that leprosy is a skin disease. It's something that sits on the surface of the Or, the Ayin Vav Resh, and how that need to be transformed into Or, which is the Aleph Vav Resh, which is the light and the glory of Yahweh. So that's the full healing state of man. And that's just a bit of a foundational truth regarding the state that we are born into. Now we're going to look at this Torah portion, which is the state of leprosy in relation to the woman who conceive and then give birth, and then the unclean state that she is in as a result of the birth. And of course the baby is also born into a unclean state, and they need to go through certain things in order to be cleansed as well. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak to you soon. Shalom.